Joey,
Yeah.
we good?
I don't know what's going on with the you still hearing the countdown?
No, are you?
Yeah. All right, hold on a second. All right, welcome back to On Tap Bets. I have no idea why it just kept playing on like an overlay for me. Super choppy to start here, but we are live. Jack, I'm with the man himself, Jack Bushman at Jack Bushman 2. Wes Sanderson, we have a new guest, well, contributor now with On Tap Sports Net. He's been pumping out some great content, great articles, golf articles at ontapsportsnet.com. If you want to check some of those out, definitely go to ontapsportsnet.com and ontapsportsnet on all social media platforms. Yeah, boys, we're back. We're breaking down a major, the U.S. Open, returning to Brookline, the country club. And it's a place that Wes has actually golfed at before the remodeling. But, yeah, man, Jack, you got off the schneid last week. Probably felt great for you getting that Royal McIlroy win. I was going to be super salty and upset if it would have been Tony Finau. He was in it to win it, actually, but he just never wins it. And, yeah, boys, welcome. Let's do this. Let's preview this thing. Talk about the course here for the U.S. Open. And how are you doing today?
Yeah, man. It felt good to get off the schneid finally. I'd been so close in the past couple months. Flirted with some winners. Keegan Bradley broke my heart at the Wells Fargo. We hit John Rahm in Mexico. We've hit Rory last week. We've hit some low numbers, and I'm liking the top of the board a little bit this week. So hopefully the trend will continue to stay hot for me. But yeah, man, third major of the year. Couldn't be more excited. The Country Club's going to play like an absolute beast out there. I'm excited to break down the course, and I'm also more excited to introduce Wes to the show, man. Wes, it's good to have you here for the first time. You want to provide us a little bit of background on exactly how the Country Club is going to play. You know, we know it's a par 70. It's going to play like a U.S. Open. There's going to be thick rough. It's playing decently long, but what kind of tidbits or insights did you kind of pick up in your experience with the Country Club?
Yeah, so the Country Club is going to be playing more of your traditional Northeast style country club golf course. The greens are going to be very small, but that is still going to be a big defense for the USGA to be able to use. They've dried the course out, and watching live from the U.S. Open, they've talked about how they've baked these fairways and they've baked the greens, in anticipation for it. You're going to have to hit the fairway, and you're going to have to make it and put it below the hole in order to get any looks at birdies and pars. It's a very tough golf course. I mean, at par 70, you would think that they're going to tear this thing up. I see the winning score probably being about, anywhere between 6 and 4 under par. If it gets any lower than that, the USGA is going to have a fit about it. But it's a good redesign. Gil Hans, again, he did the redesign at Southern Hills, and we're getting to see him again back-to-back in majors. He's becoming the new Open Championship doctor for the USGA and for the American side of golf. It's not going to be a bomber's golf course. You're going to get the graduated rough that they've kind of put in there. But unlike the last time we saw thick rough, which was probably
Wingfoot, probably.
Yeah, that would have been Wingfoot when Bryson just,
just mashed it.
Blew the goddamn golf course to smithereens. I don't see Bryson being able to do that here. We're going to get fescue like we got in 2017 at Erin Hills and in 2018 at Shinnecock. This is going to be a precision golf course. There are people on this board like, Colin Morikawa, who's kind of flying under the radar, that this is going to suit their type of game. But bad shots are going to get punished, and some good shots, are going to wind up in some of the lakes and everything else.
I've even seen I've seen talk on Twitter of like, if you miss a spot on a fairway, it can hit a slope and carry into the water. Like, the way the fairways are sloped, it's not going to be player friendly. They want it to play difficult. They don't want an Erin Hills situation on their hands with Brooks a couple of years back where the winning score was like 16 under or something like that. But I'm really interested to see kind of how the driver is going to affect this, because in the past, for the last few U.S. Opens, we've seen some mashers of the golf ball actually win the tournaments, right? Jon Rahm, I mean, he's pretty long. He's incredibly straight too, which is something I'm going to get into later. Bryson, like we said, just kind of mashed it and then was strong enough to hit it out of the rough at wing foot. We've seen Brooks. We've seen Dustin. Like there's been these long drivers of the golf ball have success at these U.S. Opens, and I'm curious how that's going to fare this time around at the Country Club, because I've really heard an emphasis on accuracy too. Like if you're hitting the ball, if you're not hitting fairways, you're going to have a hard time even generating pars at a course like this, because the greens are so small. You're going to have to be strong enough and accurate enough to still hit those tiny greens. And then if you miss them, your short game is going to be tested as well. So I'm really interested to see what kind of type of players are going to be up at the top this week. What are you guys kind of thinking for like the favorite type of player this favors all around? Is that's what I'm thinking. I think you have to have all four parts of the game going well in order to win here.
I think you got to have all four of your facets going, especially like Rahm said in his press conference, it's the U.S. Open. You're going to get tested in every facet. But the thing that's not going to be able to save you this week is your putter. If you're putting bad, you're going to count yourself out, because, tee to green while you can, like, muscle it out of that, like, graduated rough. If you're putting bad on these greens that have a lot of slope, they're going to be running fast like the USGA wants them to. You're in for a Friday night flight out of Boston to wherever you're going to be going. I'm looking at up and down this board, and I'm thinking like Will Zalatoris, obviously Scotty Scheffler, who played really well down at Colonial. He played well at Augusta, which is known for having fast greens. It's going to be those types of players. Even Cam Smith, a greaser like him, who's going to be able to get in and around those greens and be able to make pars that are going to be gritty pars to win. Those are great looking. Those are the types of players you're going to be looking for. And to your point about the fescue and Aaron Hills, the difference being you looked at what happened at Aaron Hills, like Rory and DJ missed the cut there. So the bombers on this golf course might not be the play, because, you try muscling it out of 2.5 foot thick fescue, or 2.5 foot tall fescue, like good luck. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But I think that those are the types of players you're going to be looking for. Anybody who was at the live event last week, I would be counting out. I don't see any of them rounding into form to actually win this. So I think it's going to be one of your stalwarts on the tour from the last, 3 months.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with the live guys. It's not that I'm like necessarily fading them. It's just none of them have really played consistently all that much. And even the ones who kind of haven't played all that well on the PGA Tour. So I'm probably not going to go with any of those guys this week. Joey, you going to be on any live guys before we get into the board at all?
Not really, at least not yet. I mean, there could be one that I find myself later on, like taking like a dart throw on, but I don't like going too far down the board this week. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And as for those guys that are near the top, like your DJs, and I'm not getting there. Like, that's just not something I'm doing. So, no, not to answer your question, not yet. I mean, I'm looking at it, and the all-around guys make the most sense, like you guys are talking about. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Jon Rahm, even though his price is kind of, whatever. It's one of the worst prices on the board, and I'm sure you're going to get to that in a second. But it's Jon Rahm. I don't know. I feel like he's not being talked about a ton this week, too, even though, like, he should be one of the favorites, and he is one of the favorites in this tournament. I feel like there's just bigger storylines this week than, like, Jon Rahm playing well. So I think that's kind of slipping under the radar a little bit. We're getting a decent price here, even at what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry to cut you off, Wes. I think it's just like for Jon Rahm, there haven't been many times where all four things are going for him at one time, but it's not like he's off on one thing consistently, right? Like last week, I think it was his off the tee game was absolutely dreadful. He hit a shank and he still came inside top 10. That was back at the Memorial, actually. So I feel like, there is just kind of some other guys who are generating a little more steam than Jon Rahm is. But don't forget, this was the guy who just birdied 17 and 18 down the stretch on Sunday last year to win this thing. And those are the exact type of players that you want to have, obviously. And one other thing I wanted to add, too, before getting into the board, like you said, Joey, going down, getting into those bigger numbers, like those guys usually aren't the ones that are winning. I mentioned it earlier. Some of the bigger names are usually like the cream of the crop rises here at the U.S. Open. And I feel like I'm not really going to have all that many bets past 60 to 80. So that's why I mentioned earlier that the top of the board is really catching my eye. But getting into some of the names up at the top of the betting board, boys. We're going to start this segment here. We're going to go under 30 to 1. We got Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, John Rahm up at the top. Scotty Scheffler looks like, or feels like we are kind of getting a discount on him at plus 1,400. Like, guy's the best player in the world and not all that far removed from his last victory where he was just rattling them off left and right. Then we also got names like Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Cam Smith, Sam Burns, Dustin Johnson, and Jordan Spieth. Wes, out of those guys that I just listed, those guys under 30 to 1, who in particular are you catching? Who's catching your eye so far?
So you actually missed the guy who's catching my eye. I've got Matthew Fitzpatrick at plus 2,200 right there.
I see him at 35, so go number shopping, bud.
Yeah, I mean he is playing really well going into this. He is also the Brookline host, the Country Club host of the 2013 USAM. There, he's the winner of it. The last time that we had a major championship or a major championship event was the 99 Ryder Cup there, which was, the Battle of the Brookline. He's seen this golf course along with Scotty Scheffler back in 13. But he's the only one with a kind of a proven track record on it. I've liked how he's shown up in majors. He's also a very, very good putter of the golf ball. He's more of an English version of Jordan Spieth without the major repertoire, in my opinion. So I like Fitz this week. I think that he's going to be going, really well. And he's kind of started to be like one of the newer faces on the PGA Tour. So I like him going in there. Out of the other ones, Cantlay has kind of faded this year in majors, so I wouldn't put him, at least to win. But Schauffele, I would pick as Xander Schauffele is my biggest guy. Again, putter he's one of the best putters out on tour right now. So to be able to get him at that price is very much a good value.
Yeah, I think for Xander too, obviously he's got the U.S. Open track record. He's got top sevens in the last 5 years. I mean, he's been right there. It's just, can he get over the hump and get that victory? And it's kind of the same for Matt Fitzpatrick as well. He's flirted, especially in the last couple of weeks. He's been right there. He was at 10 under on Friday at the RBC Canadian Open and just kind of plummeted after that. A pair of double bogeys on 14 in his early rounds really killed him. But I do like Fitzy too. I don't know if I'm going to get there on him on an outright, man, because I've bet him a lot at outrights, and I don't know. I feel like he's been so close. I see where you're coming from too. Obviously he won at Brookline for the USAM. It was a pretty good field too. I mean, looking back at it now, Scotty Scheffler, there was a lot of big names in there. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't placed a single bet yet. Matt Fitzpatrick is a guy who I'm curious about though. When we move down a little bit. Joey, is there anyone at the top of the board that's catching your eye so far?
I mean, Fitzpatrick's an interesting one because looking at last week, I'm like, man, I can't believe he's under 20 to 1 right now. Right. And I knew it was the field, but I'm like, what's going on here? And then he still turned in a solid performance. I thought he really had a shot to win last week or this past weekend. So he's in good form right now. I like that pick a lot. I guess near the top of the board, I already mentioned John Rahm. I'll probably be placing a wager on him just because I don't want to miss out, even though the price isn't that great, but I really feel like he could take this down again. So I like Rahm there. Who else near the top? I'm trying to look back at this real fast. Like I said, boys, I haven't really placed any wagers yet this week. So tomorrow will be more like the finalization of, I'm going to get all my picks in, make all my bets, and then when we do the show tomorrow, it'll be more of, diving more fully into it. But near the top here, too, who also kind of intrigues me, under 30 to 1, I'm kind of looking at Zalatoris, and I hate it. I just want to be a part of history, man. He hasn't won. I just hate it. Every time he's teased me, he's done this in the past. I think this could be a good fit for him over here, though. And, I know he's probably going to wind up losing it on Sunday, but I'm just going to go ahead and dive in probably on that again. I'm seeing him at, 28 to 1, but it's probably a better price out there. I'm on our sponsor, Bet Rivers. If you want to check that out, deposit match free plug here in the middle of the show. Deposit match up to $250. Enter the promo code on tap at Bet Rivers. So yeah, 28-1 on Bet Rivers. There might be a better price out there, but Zalatoris I'll probably be jumping in on, even though I hate myself for doing it.
Yeah, I got so many tough decisions to make. Will Zalatoris, I'm pretty positive that he's someone I am going to place a wager on, though. Joey, I remember when we were doing our show for the RBC Heritage and we were talking about Zalatoris there, I'm like, I'm probably going to bet him at the U.S. Open. The week comes around, here we are.
I forgot that you said that. Now it's clicking in that you kind of enlightened me and put me back on to Zalatoris for this tournament, now that I think about it. That's right.
Yeah. 30-1, I think I have to take it. I mean, he's been literally right there, so freaking close. I know the putter woes do absolutely scare me, especially on a Sunday when it comes time where you got to hit those 5-6 footers for par. Like that
it's
is
ugly.
It's
absolutely ugly.
The stroke is ugly too. It's not even just the misses. It's the way he's putting the ball. It's like he's got the shakes. It's literally like if I was out there trying to win the U.S. Open, shitting my pants. That's basically Will Zalatoris on Sunday. But I do like him. Before I go down there, though, I do want to talk about Scotty Scheffler a little bit because 14-1, like I think I'm going to get Rahm too. I don't want to go too heavy at the top of this board. I think I'm going to pick two below 25-1, and it feels like it's going to be Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler for me. Like Scheffler at 14-1 feels just like a discount. Like I've seen him at 10s and 11s at all the majors, and it's not like his form has been that bad. He was still right around. He was still there on Sunday at the Canadian Open. He didn't put together a good round, but like Scotty Scheffler's bad rounds are other people's very good rounds. Like that's the type of golfer that he is. I know he's got the all-around game. He can get up and down from anywhere. He's got that escape ability. And I feel like I mentioned this at the PGA Championship and it all went south. But I feel like Scotty Scheffler like rarely hits two bad shots in a row. Like even if he has one bad one, he comes back with just some magic and puts himself back into position. So I think that's the type of game you're going to need. You got to avoid bogeys as much as possible. Pars are going to be your friend at this course. And I feel like Scotty Scheffler's one of those guys who can rack up pars on any golf hole that you give him. So those are the guys that are going to probably draw my interest. I do have some temptations on Xander though, because I feel like his time is coming. He's just been right there, man. And we know what type of caliber player he is. He just hasn't gotten the victory yet. So those are all the ones that intrigue me. I'm probably going to pass on Cantlay, pass on Cam Smith. I'm going to pass on DJ. Jordan Spieth though, boys, 28-30-1. Like, is that interesting to anybody? Because it is kind of interesting to me. I'm not going to lie.
I think it's interesting just given like how streaky Jordan Spieth has been since since the media has claimed his quote unquote resurgence. If we get the Jordan Spieth of, lights out putting, then yes, but he doesn't seem to get it. Like all four facets of his game don't hit at the same time. So if he has the like yips on the tee to where, we're getting that ugly approach and like practice swing before he like rips the driver and stuff, I don't know if, if it's all going to be there. It's just, if the Jordan Spieth that shows up that won at Chambers Bay and has won multiple times convincingly before, obviously that's a value for him. But this year, his wins have just been grinding out. They haven't been convincing. So I'm not sure if I'm sold on, can he get back into the major circle? Just circling back on your quote, like your talk on Scotty, I just don't see enough from him so far at the U.S. Open. He's only played in 4, and out of those, his best finish was last year at a T7. So I think that number is reflecting just the fact that he hasn't, gotten enough familiarity with USGA golf courses yet to see what exactly he's capable of doing.
Yeah, that's fair. One thing I will say, though, about Jordan Spieth's ugly practice swing, it's been working. He's been ball striking pretty good. The driver's been back recently. If he can do that, we'll see what happens with the putter. That's always $1 million question with Spieth. But I just thought that kind of pricing was arguably the most fair out of those guys below 30-1, I should say. Joey, you getting interested on Spieth? I know you've bet him at both majors so far this year. So are you getting back there or are you going to pass this one?
I haven't made up my mind yet, even with, what Wes was saying, what you were saying about him being interesting. I just still haven't made up my mind. I'm usually there. I'm usually always on Spieth just about every week. So I probably will. I'm not going to lie to you. Just say I'm not. Right at this moment, I just haven't quite made up my mind.
For sure. All right, moving down the board a little bit. We've already touched on Will Zalatoris. We've already touched on Matthew Fitzpatrick a little bit. But this middle range is one that's really giving me fits right now as well, because we see Colin Morikawa is down to 30, and you could probably shop better numbers as the week goes on, because I don't think that many people are interested in Colin Morikawa based on the recent form and his inability to chip the ball, which is going to be a big factor this week. But we also get Tony Finau, our boy, top 10 Tony, who is coming off one heck of a performance. Came up a little short per usual at the Canadian Open. But we also got Victor Hovland, who's a big name, who's looking for his first major at 35-1. Daniel Berger's in there. He had one of his better putting and iron weeks at the Memorial recently. We also got Shane Lowry, who's arguably been the best golfer this season that doesn't have a victory. And then there's also Joaquin Niemann, Hideki's right there. We got Liv Louis in the mix, Sung J M. Who of those names, Wes, is kind of getting your attention right now?
You know, Shane Lowry's performance at the last two majors has been really surprising, just given the former Open champions, like, form leading up to those. He's had a resurgence. I think that, you know, I'm not sure if this course will fit his eye as much. You know, you look at the last two major championships, there's no rough. You know, there's no rough at Augusta National, and there's no rough at Southern Hills. You know, if he can hit it straight and he can keep it in the fairway and putt, you know, I think that that's the big thing. He's not super, like, accurate off the tee to where he can place it really well. But he is one of the best putters. He's one of the best putters on the European side. So I think that that's going to be beneficial for him. It's just a different test, and there's not anybody in that range that has a ton of experience on this type of golf course. We're not familiar with Northeast style courses as much. So I could see Shane, and I'm still not sleeping on Morikawa. He's still one of the best iron players in the world. And that's going to be really helpful, especially on a target golf course going into these greens. So I'd made the comparison before with some buddies, like, Colin Morikawa is the best iron player next to Tiger Woods, I think, on the American side, since we saw Tiger, make the resurgence in '97. So I still think that that's a great comparison, and I still think that he's going to be able to contend this week.
Yeah, the thing about Morikawa is we know he has the game to do it. We just haven't seen it recently. So are you going to buy in that Colin Morikawa is going to be able to overcome some poor past performances? Because iron play is going to be huge this week. As we mentioned, there's going to be some small greens. If you're hitting those regularly, and I don't think that's going to be very frequent, something we see out of a lot of guys, that's going to give someone a huge advantage. And if Morikawa somehow can get that putter going, like, if you look at some of his wins, the putter has been red hot. If he putts, he wins. He's one of those types of players. So that's kind of, I think, the case you got to make for Morikawa. You got to believe that he can get back to that form regardless of the kind of past performances that he's put up that haven't been all that good. Joey, who out of the guys that I just listed, is there anyone that's catching your eye so far? I know you said you haven't placed any bets, buddy. I'm in the same boat. But is there anyone that's, your money's starting to drift towards a little bit?
I actually kind of like that you guys brought up Colin Morikawa, to be honest, because he's pretty good in accuracy, driving accuracy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we already touched on how that's going to be important this week, as it was last week for the Canadian Open. So you're kind of putting me in on Morikawa there, and we'll see what happens. Obviously with the putting and around the green, I think he could. This is a tournament though that he could take down. I'm starting to buy in there. As far as like what I said about Zalatoris, I'm getting a little bit worried here because the last 3 U.S. Opens here at this venue needed playoffs, and the last 6 U.S. Opens played in the state of Massachusetts needed to be decided by playoffs. So Will Zalatoris, I'm getting a little scared, more and more scared here as I keep reading as we're on this show together. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm still betting Will Zalatoris, but as for the other guys in this range that you mentioned, yeah, there's some interesting names. I think probably Joaquin Niemann I'll find myself placing a wager on as well.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got a good short game. He's performing really well recently. Joaquin's on the come up, man, and I know he won at Riviera, which was just a dominant victory, the only wire-to-wire winner on the tour this season, I believe. So we know Joaquin Niemann's got the game. I'm a little interested in him as well. I don't know what to do with this range, boys, because it's so tough for me. I could make cases for everyone. Like I know Victor Hovland doesn't have the approach, but he's someone that I know has the game that's going to be able to take down one of these majors sometime soon. I don't know if it's going to be the U.S. Open in particular, but we know when he's at his best, he's one of the best players in the world. And this is a pretty fair number at 35. I do like Shane Lowry a lot, though. He's just been consistent. I do worry that he kind of missed his horizon to get the win, because for a while there, it was seeming like he was in one of the final pairs come every Sunday. Faded a little bit recently, but even when I say that, he's still been posting regularly good finishes and has been hovering right around. So I do like Lowry at 35-1 as well. Is there any interest by chance, boys, in Louis at all? Because we know, I mean, he's been there before. He was so close last year once again. And I do wonder if being removed from the PGA Tour, I know it hasn't been pretty for Louis, both in terms of leaving the tour and also his game before he did so. But I do wonder if, like, kind of having a little bit pressure off of him this week, I feel like potentially could be a benefit. I don't know. I'm just wondering if you guys have any interest in Louis at all.
I don't have a huge interest in it. I also think that, the lack of pressure, his last tune-up was last week at a live event, which has been compared to, your member guest shotgun start. Like, there's no pressure to it. It was a guaranteed payday.
Right.
I don't see it, before you could obviously lock him in as, probably a runner-up finish, if not a top 5 or a 10. I don't see that being the case this year. The form just hasn't been there. And I don't know outside of that, out of those other players that I think one that's not getting any love at all, which is super shocking, is Brooks Koepka, 2-time major winner, finished T4 last year at this event. He's made for this type of a golf course, and he seems to show up for the majors. So I think that, that will be one that that number is what I'm going to be looking at, especially coming down, as we get closer to it.
For sure. All right, moving down the betting board, I should say, moving down the leaderboard. We'll be doing that later this week. We got some interesting names up here as well. You mentioned Brooks, 40-1 seems like a pretty fair number. There's our boy Mito, Joey's boy Mito, I should say, who choked away a huge win for him on at Southern Hills.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a toughie, buddy. I'm sorry. Max Homa's also been playing some really good golf. He's in this range. We got Cam Young, Billy Horschel, who won the Memorial, my boy Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood. Anyone that you got interest as we start to move down a little bit here, guys? Like I said, I'm probably not going to get too deep here, but was there anyone in particular for either of you two that stands out right now in that range?
Yeah, for me, I like Max Homa this week. I know I said that pre-show, 41-1. Hasn't finished outside the top 25 since the Masters, T13 at the PGA Championship, won the Wells Fargo, won Fortinet. He can putt, good on approach, solid off the tee, 30th in strokes gained off the tee. Hasn't won a major, but I think he's going to have a solid tournament here. Not a terrible price. So 41-1. Yeah, sign me up for Max Homa. But I'm not feeling like super confident that he's going to win this thing. We can't be super confident about anybody, to be honest with you, because there's so many golfers in every tournament. But I like Homa's chances to at least do well in this tournament.
Yeah, the putter's been red hot for Max Homa, and driving the ball has actually been he's sneaky, long, and accurate. One of the best combined drivers, someone who hits the ball deep and can also hit the fairways. Anyone catching your eye from that range, Wes?
Outside of Homa, I don't see myself really looking towards anybody else. I mean, Horschel's form obviously at Jack's Place was, something to be proud of. I mean, Billy's one on the other older side of the tour, but I don't see him, being able to climb this leaderboard and stuff. And a part of that is the mental toughness of it. We've seen Billy snap clubs at golf tournaments. We've seen him throw clubs at golf tournaments. The USGA likes to F with people's heads. And while it's enjoyable for us as fans, I can tell you just from playing golf courses that, are ramping up to PGA Tour conditions, it's a shit kicker. I mean, I played Torrey Pines. I played the South Course about 3 weeks prior to the Farmers one year, and that rough is no joke. So I don't, you've got to keep it like pretty straight between the ears, and I don't see Billy being able to hold that together.
Yeah, I think home was the one that actually, funny enough, was generating my eye the most. I'll probably get a FOMO bet on Corey Connors because it's me and Corey Connors' relationship. That's just what I do. But other than that, I'm not too interested down in this range. But moving on to the long shots, last segment before we get on out of here today. We are, by the way, going to be having a show once again tomorrow to finish up and finalize some of these bets. Getting down the list, Bryson DeChambeau plus 8,000. Any interest at all? Because that's the biggest number you're probably ever going to see on Bryson ever.
None for me.
None.
But it's the live stuff that I'm just like, I don't think he gives a shit at all. Even though it's a major, but I mean, I just don't think he cares this week, and I'm not sure where he's at, to be honest.
That's fair.
I don't know where his head's at. Like, for one, I mean, I caught his interview yesterday to where he was like, it was a money decision, but also a family decision. Dude, you're single and you have no family. Like, you're clearly doing this for the money. But he's
future
also
family, future family.
Yeah, future family. He's coming off of that wrist injury and stuff like that. Him being just like Baum and gouge at this golf course. If he winds up in that fescue, he's re-injuring that wrist, and that's the end of that. I don't see it playing at those odds. I don't see myself playing that.
Yeah, I'm not really interested either. But I'll mention three names that I do like as kind of some long shots. I'm not going to bet all of these guys. I don't really think anyone in this range really is going to win. We've only seen one kind of long shot in recent years, and that was Gary Woodland at plus 8,000 not too long ago. Keegan Bradley, my boy Keegan, I know he broke my heart, but he's driving the ball incredibly well, and all of a sudden his putter's resurging, and Keegan Bradley's putter's been bad forever, so I feel like if there's a time for Keegan to do it, it's while his putter's popping. So plus 8,000 kind of stands out to me with Keegan. I also do have a little interest in two live boys. I'm not going to lie. Taylor Gooch plus 8,000. I am tempted a little bit, kind of a poor man's Sam Burns, if you will.
He's kind of popping in some models I'm looking at too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good pick.
My one live boy, if I had to pick one of them, though, I'm not going to lie. I think I'd bet Patrick Reed 100-1 because it would be absolutely hilarious if he won. And he's actually been playing pretty decent as of late after being terrible for so long. Any interest in any of those or any others, guys, before we wrap this thing up?
Not in those. I mean, I'm interested in Kevin Kisner's number just because of how low it is. Kis isn't a bomber of the golf course, but he putts lights out. This could be a course that suits him. He's more of an open road kind of guy just because of how short he hits it. But I'm a Kiz guy through and through in that, so I could see myself putting a little bit of a bet on that, at least for a top 10. And then I know that I don't expect it to happen, but nobody expected Phil Mickelson to win the PGA last year at Kiowa. I would be shocked. Either he's missing the cut or he's winning by 5. And there's no in between with Phil this week. That would be the biggest middle finger to the PGA Tour that Phil could give, is just coming back after a horrible putting performance last week and making the cut or backdooring a top 10.
The golf world would completely burn down. Sunday night and Monday morning would be super interesting if Phil Mickelson somehow managed to even compete, I feel like, at this U.S. Open.
If he makes the cut, I consider that a win. That's a prop. That would be a play that I'd be interested in, because I think that a lot of people are, thinking that he's not going to make the cut, but I wouldn't put anything past Lefty, and he seems to at least be out on the course today, being well received by the fans. I think the media is done with him, but the New England fans are going to show up regardless for the guy.
100%. Yeah. We might have to see what that Phil Mickelson number is to make the cut. That's probably something we could talk about on tomorrow. Joey, any long shots, any long guys catching your eye? Tom Hoagie, maybe, since you're a big Hoagie guy?
Oh, Hoagie. I kind of like List this week too.
I do. I'm going to bet Luke List because I'm stupid.
I'm stupid too, but he's been good to me. So we're gonna go back to the well probably with Hoagie and List for no other reason than that. And I do think this is a good spot for List though. The guy you mentioned though, Keegan Bradley, we are on the opposite side this week, my friend.
Oh, are you taking a prop against him?
I'm looking to fade Keegan Bradley this week, and I'll tell you why. It's basically his backyard. right? He's got good form. First time the U.S. Open has been basically in his backyard, Boston, since 1988, and Bradley was 2 years old. I think he's putting on a lot of pressure on himself for this tournament. He's going to have friends, family there, a bunch of friends and family wearing Boston gear.
We know Keegan doesn't do good in pressure either. That's not Keegan's bread and butter.
I think there's already enough pressure on golfers in a major like this, and we don't need any added extra pressure. So I'm looking to fade him somehow. I haven't figured out just how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it, and I'll figure it out, and I'll mention it on tomorrow's show. And I'm sorry, my friend, but I think your outright is absolutely fucked.
Hey, we'll see about that come Sunday afternoon. But I'll tell you what, if that playoff thing continues too, like Keegan's right in that same boat as Will Zalatoris. He's absolutely fucked.
Yeah, we're both going to be. We're both just placing some wagers here that are going to get sunken very, very fast.
Maybe it'll be Keegan and Zalatoris, and one of those two losers has to come out on top. So that would be a funny situation.
Imagine them in a playoff. Oh my god, dude!
Yeah,
I would
it would be hilarious, but not as hilarious as Phil Mickelson taking this whole thing down. But yeah, boys, I think that's probably a good spot to wrap this up for today. Like we already said, we're going to be having a show tomorrow to talk about our finalized bets. We're also going to go over some top 20s, top 40s, maybe some nationality props because we like to get crazy, make and miss the cut. We're going to have a bunch of stuff coming tomorrow. So if you enjoyed all this today, definitely be sure to come back tomorrow to see our finalized picks, and be sure to go and follow all these gentlemen with me here. Joey Knows Nothing, that ends in IN, because that stands for win, baby. Don't forget it. We're going to win this week. We're cashing tickets. I'm feeling good after the Rory McIlroy last week. And Wes, I want to say thank you, man, for coming on. It's awesome to meet you. I can't wait to have you on these shows more regularly, dude. And be sure also to go and follow Wes, the newest member of the On Tap golf team here, at Wes_Sanderson98 on Twitter. For myself, you can follow me at Jack Bushman2. Also be sure to go and follow at On Tap Bets and On Tap Golf. We got a bunch of good stuff coming. It's one of the most fun weeks of the year. Be sure to check it out. We're going to be giving you some insight and some scoops on a bunch of different players who we feel like can take this thing down, and everybody wins money together. I think that's always the most fun outcome. So thank you all for tuning into another preview episode here of the U.S. Open 2022 at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. Be sure to check out the show tomorrow. Gentlemen, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Let's win some money. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's finalize it. We're going to get it in tomorrow.
I love it.
Yep. Let's do it, boys. Nice show.
Absolutely.